It's Saturday and I'm live. So this is not usual. I normally do not have a show on Saturday. This is my very first Saturday show and I had to make it a special one. Thank you everyone who is joining and who will be joining this week's show. I have a very special guest that has taken her time to join me. I will be bringing her in soon, but I have pinned for you to also join the show in the comments. If you are going to join the show, I ask for you to be respectful in your questions and also respectful in your comments. Let's not forget, people have feelings. My show might be called Fuck Your Feelings, but my guests have feelings, even if I don't have feelings sometimes. So we have a special Kendra G guest who I've interviewed in the past. I have brought her back. Look at me, I can't even speak. I have brought her back for an update. So without further ado, let me bring my guest to the stage. Hello, 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 everybody who's joining. This is my special guest, Courtney. She may look familiar because she was a guest a few months ago on Kendra G. Before we get into things, Courtney, go ahead and introduce yourself to the people.
Hey guys, Courtney and Toshiba asked me to come back to Fuck Your Feelings, so I'm here to give an update. Single mom of 5 was Kendra's tagline. I think Kendra's tagline was like
Mom 5 by 5.
Yeah, sorry.
It was like 5 by 5.
Yeah, like an In-N-Out burger. So I'm here. I'm back. Thank you for having me.
I love it. So before we play the clip, I do have a clip of Courtney on Kendra G show. But before we go into this, I'll even talk about how we connected, which was way before she even went on the show. Mm-hmm. So I was in the comments on another guest. There was another guest on Kendra G. I think she maybe had 4 kids. I don't know how many kids that young lady had, but I made a comment, and I think it was to the extent of, at some point, like, at what point do you stop having kids with multiple men? Mm-hmm. Because Courtney, I've shared it with her. I'm not the biggest fan of this, right? Black women especially. I don't care what other races and other cultures want to do. Not my problem. I'm not them. But as Black women, part of us holding each other accountable is having these very difficult conversations. And I've made it very clear that that's not my thing. I have one child for a reason. And I didn't believe in multiple children. And I didn't definitely believe in multiple children with multiple men. So that is my viewpoint. God bless anybody else who does it, but that's the way I've lived my life. So Courtney actually made a comment to the comment that I made, and it was a very insightful one. And she was just like, sometimes we don't know what kind of place that person is in that made them make that decision. And then once they're healed, you know what, they're in a better position. And, that we're paraphrasing, for Courtney is nodding. So that was the extent of the conversation. And so we connected. And I said, granted, I respect that, because I never take that part into consideration of, the space that you're in. To me, you make a decision once and you do it again and again and again. You're making a choice. But I'm also coming from a very healed place. So it's very different for me coming from a healed place than someone who may not be healed. So I said, oh, my God, you know what? I will own that. I will take it. My opinion is still my opinion. However, but I will own that fact that not everybody is in the space that I am in to make the decisions that I have made for their life. And then what was interesting is when Courtney was on the show, and I'm not going to play the full clip, she actually referenced my comments. And then she actually reached out to me and said, hey, by the way, I was on Kendra's show, sent me the link, and I watched and it said, you have to come on my show. So we did interview before a couple of months ago. If you want to see the original interview, you can go back there and find out more about Courtney's journey. What we want to do this time around is kind of get an update about what happened after the show. Hey, Mr. I see you. I see you up here. So we are going to get an update from Courtney. But before we go into the update, for those who are not familiar with her, what I'm going to do is play a clip a little small clip. It's only a minute. Her segment was about 16, 17 minutes. So I'm only playing about a minute and a bit of her segment on Kendra G. Give me one moment.
What's your name, babe?
Courtenay. Oh my
Courtenay.
gosh.
Courtenay.
Yes, ma'am.
Where are you calling us from?
I'm calling from Southern California.
How old are you?
I'm 41.
41. Okay. What's your zodiac sign?
Capricorn.
What do you do for a living?
I'm in human resources as a corporate facilitator for a bank, and I'm also an external reader for the UC system.
Okay. How many kids do you have? I know you have a son.
I have 5.
Uh-oh, let's get to how old are these 5 kids, girl?
20, 17, 13, 7, and 3.
All by the same man?
Absolutely not.
What's wrong with having kids by the same man?
Absolutely nothing. We just don't. Absolutely nothing. Unfortunately, that just was not what panned out for me and the
Okay, how
choices
many
that I
men?
made at the time. 5.
Girl, now no judgment court today, but you couldn't
Yes,
settle
ma'am.
down with any of the 5 men you had children with.
I had to leave it at that part because, of course, I know that's what a lot of people are asking. That is generally the question. After you have all of these children by all of these different men, why couldn't you settle with one of them? So I'm going to leave that to the end of this, but I'm going to start Courtenay with, for the viewers, tell me what made you first of all decide to go on Kendra G.
Oh my goodness, because I'm genuinely wanting partnership. Like I'm and dating is, I hear my kids in the background. Not easy. I don't think it's easy for anybody. Unless you're I don't know, maybe right out of high school, early college, maybe. But for older folks, I'm 42 now. Whether you're single, you have kids, or any of that, it's challenging. And because I live the kind of lifestyle that I live, as far as I work from home, I'm a mommy to 5, so I just do their events. I live in the suburbs, so anybody at the grocery store is there with their wives, or it's just not conducive for the type of man I'm interested in. So I thought, if you want something you've not had, you got to do something you haven't done. So I went on Kendra.
I respect it, and I'm with you. Like, I don't outside. That's what I call it, right? Like, I don't do a lot of peopling. I don't do a lot of outsiding, right? I also work from home, and I don't live in California like you do. I live in Canada, in Toronto, and it's cold for about 6 months out of the year. For 6 months out of the year, I'm inside. I've tried the whole online dating thing. It's a little hit and miss. So I completely get it. I completely get wanting to do something different. But girl, Kendra G, and this is all love and respect to Kendra G. But even I have said with my one grown child, I have a 22-year-old. As much as I have a feeling called, show called Fuck Your Feelings, I'm with God. I found peace. I meditate every day. I'm saying my dead daddy's up there, making sure that I'm good. But some of these Kendra cousins can be a little much. Did you consider the feedback or the backlash you would get the moment you said you had 5 kids by 5 different men?
Yeah, absolutely. I went into this fully cognizant of Kendra cousins. I too am a Kendra cousin and have definitely had my opinions on some folks. The funny thing for me is, like, I'm not the worst guest on the show.
No, you haven't. The woman that was pregnant, I would say the worst guest on the show for me, women-wise, had to be the woman who was actually pregnant. And this was her 8th, 7th, or I want to say she was on baby number 8 or baby number 7, but she was currently pregnant. So she was top 1. The next worst guest on Kendra G, women-wise, because I'm just going to stick to the women, is the woman whose husband was in the hospital, and she had, you missed that one, girl. She had like a 3-year-old. Her husband was in the hospital, and she was trying to find a just in case her husband died, that she had a back.
Oh,
She
sure.
was,
So she wasn't interested until death do us part.
no. She said he's an older man. He may just go. So I'm about to try to find a backup. And Kendra basically, cussed her. And I
Yeah.
think number 3 was the woman who came on while her husband was in the next room.
Yeah.
No. Actually, I'm going to switch her out. I'm going to switch her out with the woman who had sex with a guy and he was still there coming into the background to get his plate made. Yeah. I watch a lot of Kendra G. I watch a lot of content for this show. So there's definitely been some terrible, awful women who have come on as trying to represent themselves well in finding men. So I would say you're absolutely not the one guest on Kendra G. I mean, definitely was not, but you still got 5 kids by 5 men. And we know how the comment section can be. And even as a woman, I go, oh, God. Oh, child, that's a lot. Like, I couldn't imagine as a man taking on a woman with 5 kids. Because that's a lot of personality. That's 10 different personalities now, right? Like, you have the 5 kids, and you potentially got the 5 man, and then you got your personality. So there's actually 11 personalities that a man has to deal with.
Right.
So did you ever go into the comments and see what they were saying about you?
Yeah, so I did a little bit, but again, because I'm on live. You need to close my door. Thank you so much. Thank you.
One of them hot kids, girl.
Yeah, so I actually did a little bit. But I knew like that wasn't going to be good for, like you said, I'm at peace. Woosah. There was just no way to battle thousands of people's opinions of me. Their thoughts are their thoughts. I actually did to warn my oldest. So I'm not worried about the little kids that don't know Kendra G.
Yeah.
But me and my oldest have a lot of conversations. He'll be 21 now. And not that he watches Kendra G, but just about, hey, I'm going live. Do not read the comments is what I told him. And he was fine with it. We kind of joke back and forth about Kevin Samuels, rest in peace.
Rest in peace, Uncle Kevin.
Yeah. So it's interesting to get his perspective dating as a young man in college. And then he knows, of course, mommy is single and whatnot. So I warned him. I did not so much clap back in some of the comments, but I did respond to some of them. And it's funny. I think a lot of what happens online is people are genuinely like keyboard warriors, right?
I agree. I get it all the time, girl. I get it all the time.
Is not what you would say to their face.
Yeah.
So people have their opinions. Some people went to bat for me, and I was appreciative of that. Some people were like, I think one of the comments that stood out was, it's something along the lines of like, she appears well and she's well spoken and blah blah blah, but she still made these choices. And I'm like, I already spoke to that. Like, people are allowed to evolve and grow. And I said, really, who I feel like folks need to be worried about is the people who come off as if their shit doesn't stink. The people who are, sociopathic in the way where they present very well, they don't tell you they shit, and then all the shit hits the fan. Here I am being honest and transparent, and you can deal with it if you want to or don't. So,
and I appreciate that. I'm just going to read this comment quickly from, hey, Mr. He said, 5 baby daddies and not even the worst guess is not saying much while also saying a lot about how FUGDUP it is out here. I don't know why I decided to spell it out and not read it. And speaking of that comment, I did see that comment under your video. I, like you, I read some of the comments, I'll make comments, but I agree with you. Opinions are like assholes. Everybody has. I have an opinion. It doesn't mean that it goes anywhere. What does my opinion have to do with your day-to-day life? I'm not in your life. But that was one that I did read and found interesting, because I think a lot of the time when people hear your story, they don't picture a woman who's well-spoken, who's educated. And as I got to know you on the last show, you come from a 2-parent home. Your father, may his soul rest in peace, I believe passed away during COVID, and your parents were together for 40 plus years. Yeah, so they're been together for a long time. And so I think the moment people hear, multiple baby dads, they think daddy issues, daddy wounds, didn't have a father, was searching for love. It's very ghetto. I'm not a big fan of that word because I hate the fact that people associate ghetto with Black, and it's ghetto is just ghetto. But I think people have this image in their mind, and I think when you said that, it took what people had created in their mind and kind of went, how? How does a woman who presents well, speaks well, is doing well for themselves? And again, I would encourage people to go back and watch the interview, but you talked about what it is that you did for a living, like you own your own house, you take care of your children, like you're not on Section 8, you're not out here getting food stamps, you're hustling, doing your thing, and taking care of your kids. So for people that was like it wasn't congruent for them. It didn't make sense. So I understood where that commentary is coming from. Did you find any of the comments really hurtful? Is there anyone that you went, ugh, or did you just say, fuck your feelings?
It wasn't quite fuck your feelings, because again, like when you are open and honest, that people are going to have their thoughts and opinions. But again, so would I have done this 5 years ago? Probably not. Right? Like, so again, I'm 42. I've gone through counseling. I still do counseling. I feel like that's like a doctor's appointment. Like, utilize it when you need it, and don't wait till you're in crisis. Right?
Agreed.
And I'm thankful for that. I believe like healthcare in Canada is free, right?
Free. Yeah. Not therapy though, girl. My therapist costs $20 an hour. No, I'm not. I'm getting $40 an hour.
Okay, so it's not free here. So even the fact that I'm able to tap into the mental health care system and take advantage of that is a blessing. But no, I didn't. And again, this was months ago, right? When did I appear on Kendra? I was 41. I'm 42, so my birthday has passed.
Yeah, maybe it would have to be in around 6 months.
6 months ago, I would say.
Yeah.
It was right before the holidays. So I read a couple of things for a while, because like when you're on YouTube, right, you get alerts like bing, bing. So my alerts were popping off, and I would go and check. But I knew that I was not going to sit and dissect the comments and go deep. And that was that. So no, nothing really stood out where I was like, oh, dagger to the heart. Like, I mean, I've had enough real life daggers where somebody's opinion who don't pay my bills, it is what it is.
And I agree with that, right? And I think it's just like I say, I get opinions on the show from men who says I will never find a man. I am all kinds of things, like they say. And I've actually started inviting people on to have some respectful discourse with me. If this is how you feel, let's have a conversation about it, right? Like, I'm not going to run away. It's funny thing. We love the positive commentary, and then we want to like slap back at the negative. I just said I'm not slapping back. I'm just going to invite you on, and let's have a conversation, and let's talk about it. So I mean,
it's not even so much like negative. It's the truth. Like, you gave me some jewels and perspective that it was like, I didn't even consider that. Kendra dropped some things that was like, it's true. Just because somebody is basically offering a corrective critique doesn't make it bad. It's just, it's hey, sis, we see you. I appreciate this. Here's some other things to consider.
Yeah.
And that's how I took it from you. That's how I took it from Kendra. And, anybody else that's not coming in that way, well, that just, I feel like it's more of a reflection on them, right? Like, if you can just come at somebody sideways, you didn't even offer to say, hey, here's a platform, let's talk about it, or call me or whatever. Because at the end of the day, I've been able to help people too, right? Yeah. There's other people who came before me. There's people in my circle, outside of my circle, that it's like, okay. And I really use it as a way to encourage people. Like, it doesn't matter the choices that you've made or the situation that you may be in. That doesn't have to define your destiny. You are still in control of that. God is in control of that, and you can still be prosperous. Do I recommend it? I agree with you. Like, okay, we don't necessarily like the term ghetto. It's ghetto. I do not recommend it. I told you that, like, it is not a 10 out of 10. It is a -5 out of 10. Don't do it. If you can have kids inside of a regular nuclear family, God bless you, right? But I'm not about to sit here and wallow in I'm still deserving of love. My kids are still deserving of the best. They're not any less than. And you know, even coming from a 2-parent household, kids still make their own decisions.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And listen, I get that. And I'm gonna keep it real with you for a second. I will tell you that because I think we talked about this. My former fiance, he and I are no longer together. And I'm gonna tell you why. I'm just gonna be honest. It was some damn 4 kids. He had 4 kids.
You said that. You said you tried.
I tried. I love him. I don't want the package deal. I am honest. As a woman, right? He is everything women come on Kendra G describe. My ex-fiance is 6'9".
Mm-hmm.
He's a former basketball player. He played 6-7 years internationally, lived all across Europe and Latin America. He's got 2 degrees. He's got an MBA in finance and a BA in economics. He makes 6 figures. He's handsome as all hell, but he came with 4 kids and 2 women with those kids and an untidy past.
Yeah.
And as much as I loved his package, I didn't want the package. Yeah. And I tried for 2 years, 8 months, and 2 days. I'm pretty specific about how long we were together. I tried to help him raise one of his children because he had custody. But when I thought about my future, what I wanted for my future, I said, oh, I don't think that's it. That's not it. Because I had one child. I had one child. My daughter's currently 22 years old. She's going to be 23 in September. Like, I feel like I come with a package, but my package was a little smaller. It's more of a Tiffany box. And he came in a big damn Amazon box that it took 2 people to bring inside, right? So my biggest thing was I understood that my choices were later going to have consequences in my life, right? And I knew even dating at 21 years old, and I broke up with my daughter's father. I was 22, right after she turned 1. So I was 22, 21 when I had her, 22, almost 23 when we broke up. And I didn't want any more children. We were talking about this before. I didn't want children in the first place. I had her, and I knew I wasn't going to have any more children. And dating at 22, 23, 24, all the way up until, honestly, I was in my latter 30s, meeting men who didn't have children and not wanting children, I knew that there was going to be a consequence to my life, right? I've lost perfectly amazing men because of the choice that I had made of already having a child and not wanting any more children. So I will say we have to own the choices we make, and we have to understand that the choices come with consequences. Now our children, they're a blessing. My daughter is a blessing to me. Your 5 children are a blessing to us. But it doesn't mean the men that potentially come into our lives later, or for the women who come into your life. I'm gonna be honest, my ex's children are not a blessing to me. I didn't have them. They're not my children. Now I'm not even trying to be mean. They ain't mine.
I respect that because I feel like what you did and how you navigated and moved is honest and authentic, right? And I feel like a lot of times men get involved in situations where they know the woman feels like that and they still proceed. And I feel like that's a disservice to everybody. Yeah. So I would rather, somebody say, you know what, I tried, I thought I was going to be okay, but I'm not interested in continuing to raise somebody else's kids and having to deal with the after, because it's forever. Even when they get 18, you got to help them with college, right? If you're any kind of a parent, if you can, right? Or you're helping them get to the service, or you're, or maybe when they're 30 and they lost a job and they need to come back home. Like, this is a continual cycle. And your adverse effects are minimized when there's just one child as opposed to 5. The likelihood of somebody always being here is up exponentially, right? So when you're like, that's not my life. I raised my child. I want to be able to do what I want to do. And I feel that because I would love to be able to do what I want to do. But those are the choices that I made. And so, and this is part of the reason that, I'm still single, is because contrary to popular belief, men can say what they want to say online, but getting a date is not an issue. I date, but as far as the potential for a relationship and the potential for long term, that's affected because it is all of us. And again, I said it on Kendra, I'm not the baby mom who's like, oh, I don't need you to be a dad. They have a dad. No, one child is grown and he has a great relationship with his father. My daughter has a great relationship, but the other ones, I need the partnership of somebody who's actively willing to parent. Like I want a husband and I want somebody who wants to father. And if that's not what they want to do, it's cool. But I'm just going to go home to myself and my kids.
Well, you said a couple of things there, but before I get to something that you said, I'm going to read what Mr. had to say. He said, those children ain't yours. They're not your blessing. That's what men have been saying about a woman with kids already. It's just that we are not allowed to say that out loud. Oh, you can say it. They just going to come at you. Listen, they come at me too, Mr. Like, people be coming at me, and I don't care because that's my reality. I don't like to use the word truth. That's just my reality.
Yeah.
The life that I want for myself doesn't include somebody else's small children. Yeah. Listen, if you have older children, we cool. Like, we good. They can hang out with my daughter and they can go to the club or whatever else is going on. But if you want me to go to PTA meetings and soccer games and AAU basketball, I don't want to do that. I want to be in Bali on a boat taking my action.
Yeah, that's your prerogative, and it's okay. And it's okay that men say that. I mean, I agree. If Mr. says it, men can get a bad rap and whatnot. But I think people should just be honest, right? Like which is what I am. So you're gonna get a bad rap anyway. You're gonna get a bad rap if you hide your children, you don't take care of your children, you take care of your children. I'm just like, y'all coming for me as if I'm not providing. This is crazy. But again, people are entitled to their opinions, their thoughts, their ideals, and you just have to do what aligns with what it is that you want to do. And if I didn't have little kids, I do not want to deal. So I tell my kid, right, I have a almost 21-year-old, 17-year-old that'll be 18 next year. Y'all go out here and have kids if you want to. I ain't going to be that kind of grandma because I'm still raising kids. So no, you can't drop them on. I'm not interested. Like you said, that's your blessing, not mine. My mom's like, oh, don't say. I'm like, no. I'm trying to tell you, I am not interested in raising other people's kids. Now, as far as dating and whatnot, that's cool. But I said things like there's certain caveats, right? Like my little one is about to go to school. So in that same age bracket, fine. But if he's in school full time in first grade and you want a newborn baby, I'm not having anymore. We already said that. You got a newborn baby. I don't want to change diapers. I'm done with that. So if your children are kind of in alignment with where my children are, fine. But is it my preference? No. It's their own kids. So I find no fault with people.
Mine is called Bring Your Own Grown Kids, right? Bring your own grown kids. I come with my own singular grown kid. And that's where I'm at, where we just need to be level. But I'm dying. Mr. just said, the Council of Online On-Heel Heifers will not allow us to say that out loud, but women can say it, no problem. You are not wrong. I mean, Kendra G and Kevin Samuels really gave us a spotlight on this idea of inequality and what men can say online, what women can say online, and the double standard, right? There is absolutely a double standard. A man with multiple children by multiple women is viewed very differently than a woman who's got multiple children by multiple men. And we understand the basic reason why, because the children stay with the women, right? Like, my situation was unique. It is not a lot of men who have custody of their children. So me helping my ex-racist children, that's not most women's situation, right? Like, the children's with the mom, you might see them every other weekend, but you cart them back off and you go live your best life and you show up to the events that you need to show up for, but the children are not with you 24/7. Whereas your 5 kids, other than your son who's off to school, is with you 24/7. Hello, we were just doing an interview and one of the kids jumped in there. So, right, like it is what it is. Now, this is a really good comment by a conceited motherfucker who says, would women willingly take on a man's horrific debt, ? That's equivalent to taking on another man's kid or kids.
Ooh, horrific debt. So, this is the thing. I think you have to have that conversation with whoever you're considering getting in a relationship with, because for me, While I do want somebody to parent and partner and us to decide, how we're going to handle the household, I'm fully aware that legally, morally, ethically, these kids are my full responsibility. So and again, I'm maintaining them on my own, right? I work, I own my home, I own homes, it is what it is. I have them. So I'm not expecting anybody to come in and rescue me. And I've told men, I don't ever foresee just quitting my jobs and depending on you. That's not the kind of lifestyle that I've set up. Maybe if I was single and I was younger and I didn't have kids, but at any point that man wants to cut the food, I have to be able to provide for my children. So no, I take on horrific debt. I don't recommend it. And again, if somebody doesn't want to take on parenting, don't. Don't. It is what it is. Am I going to ask somebody's credit score before we get married? Yeah. Do I want to know your debt? Absolutely. Just like you should know mine. And if it's something that I'm not comfortable with and vice versa, then we're not doing it.
And I love that. And I'm gonna go back to what you said, because you kind of revealed it already in terms of the fact that you are still single. We're gonna get into what the response was and what your inbox looked like after it. But you know what? One of the things that we talked about in our interview was the difference between intention and attention. Yes. And I just want to again make sure that the ladies understand this. We can always have sex. Mm-hmm. Men are always going to take us out. That's called attention. I get a lot of attention, but it does not mean that that man is intentional with us and has intentions for us. And I think a lot of the times as women, we are confusing the two. And I see a lot of it, especially on Kendra G, when women come on and say, oh, I'm single by choice. And I still have men out here and men are, hitting me up or whatever. Baby girl, you have a vagina. Of course, there are men who do not care. There is a slit and he can enter, right? They do not care if you're 450 pounds. They don't care if they got to put a bag over your head. When they want to enter, you are available. That's called attention. But that man is not planning a future with you. That man is not talking about a future with you. That man is not introducing you to your friends. That man is not bringing you out in public. That man has no intentions for you. So stop mistaking the attention for the intention, because that's what you're looking for. You didn't go on Kendra G's show for attention. Correct. There's no way. Nobody needs that type of attention, because the Kendra G show tends to come with very negative attention, right? You went on because you were looking for a man who would be intentional with you and for you with your kids.
Correct.
Now let me ask you about the dynamic. Let's just say you do get into a relationship. And you guys get to the point where you're in a cohabitation situation. I did a show last week that I say I don't do 50-50. I don't do 50-50 of anything. I'm not paying 50% of nobody's bills. I will do 100% by myself. I'm honest. People go come at me. I'm going to put out that clip today. I am not spinning it, rub it down, turning it around, having you give me anal and do all the things that I be doing in bed, lotioning your skin, taking care of you, getting up at 5:30 to make sure you got breakfast before you go to work. And then on the 29th, you're going to say, baby, where's 50% of the bills? We're not doing that. My daddy would spin in his urn. Like, it's just not happening. But that's me. And I come with one grown child and my grown self. But in your situation where it's still four are living at home, right? Yeah. 4 are living at home. What does that dynamic look like for you in a cohabitation situation?
Whew. So at the end of the day, again, I'm going to maintain what I'm going to maintain. So I talked about this with a friend where he's single. He has his home. He has his kids. They go back and forth between him and mom and whatever. And basically, like with our dynamics, we are both responsible for our households, right? So even if our households came together, the conversation of there's almost a little bit more flexibility, not so much 50-50. He's already paying his rent. I'm already paying my mortgage, right? But at this point, it's like, okay, are we gonna maybe the funds that we agree on combining, let's pay down your debt, let's pay down my debt. Or if we're not in debt, let's put that money into vacation funds or things like that. But again, he's always going to be responsible for his children. Like there's child support that has to be paid, right? I feel like it's less than responsible for a parent to put themselves in a situation where their kids can't come. So there's always going to be a space for my children to come back home. So if you got, I think he has 5 kids too, and I have 5 kids. We probably
let me sit back. Jesus Christ, I couldn't even go on, girl. Let me.
So my babies are the younger ones. His youngest is like 13, but it's just not that we were. It's just conversing, right? We've gone out. It's just kind of conversing. Like if these were the dynamics, what are we doing? And it's basically all the kids need to have a space to come to, right? And then how we do our money is how. But I'm not quitting work. He ain't quitting work. My mortgage has to be paid.
Amen.
He already said, as a man, most men that goes back to that whole 50-50 conversation, are not willing to just move into your house.
Amen. So, no, they're not. You're moving it with them. Yes, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And so now his space is smaller than mine. So it's like, okay, but do you want the man or do you want your big house? Right. So there's some compromises that have to be made. But as far as like financial, and again, he said it like if that happened, right, if you came here, I'm already paying the rent. I mean, there's no you got to come 50-50, because for me that'd be taking on more debt. Why do I want to pay rent when I have a more, like, it just make it make sense?
No,
so
I'm with you.
It's almost like your finances in our type of situation are separate, except for what you agree to go together, right? And then if we want to buy a home together, that's a different type of conversation. But I don't expect anybody. Can people do it? Have I heard stories of people taking on them and they 6 kids? Yeah, like it happens. People do it. But me personally, I enjoy working. I do at this stage in life. I'm not interested in being a stay-at-home mom. They need to go to school. So go on to school, be with your people. So what am I gonna do? Like, I'm gonna go to work. I'm gonna make sure they're taken care of. Birthdays and holidays. Okay, how are you doing Christmas? Are we doing like it's fine conversing, but my money is my money, my properties are my properties, and that's that.
And I'm with you. And before people really come at me, what I said in my show, because Mr. was watching it, so he's actually recording what I said, is I do 100% of my role and you do 100% of your role. So in my last relationship, yes, my ex paid all of the bills. I went to go be with him. I helped him take care of his child. He did what he needed to do, but I also did 100% of my role, was just to make sure I took everything off of his plate that he didn't want to do, right? I had the rainy day fund. I took him on dates. We did those things at work. I bought the stocks. Like, we made sure that, my earnings which were significantly less than his, that they still went somewhere that benefited us. It was just that when it came to the bills, I was not paying them, right? That was our agreement. And that's what worked for us. And I think that, one of the things that we need to stop doing is talking about in absolutes, right? Yeah. Is it more challenging for you to date and be in a relationship? Absolutely. Yeah. Let's not discount that, right? Yeah. Even as a mother of one, I understand that my daughter is a liability to some other man, right? Mm-hmm. She is not an asset to any other man but me and her father. And children generally are not assets. Children are liability. And we talk about it because we take care of them forever. Just like you said, if my daughter goes out into the world and she hits hard time and she needs to come back home, I'm always going to have space in the home to make sure my daughter doesn't move out and I say, oh, now I can downsize. Never going to happen. I'm always going to make sure that there is a room that she can have. If I turn it into the office and she decides that she wants to come home, I'm going to move that shit out and put it in my room because my baby needs a space. So my daughter is forever my child and I forever have to take care of her. So I 100%, children are a liability overall. Yes. So we know that. And as mothers, we understand that that's difficult. Like, it's difficult dating. So I think people don't need to talk about absolutes. We understand that as mothers, that we come with somebody else's children. Is it impossible for you to find somebody? No, I've also seen it happen, but we also are going to acknowledge me with my one daughter and you with your 5 children.
Yeah. Very different.
Very different.
And like you said, I agree. I've had to tell my children that, especially the 17, like, baby, you a liability. I get nothing from you, right? My ROI that I'm looking for is for you to be a peaceful, productive adult and be able to take care of yourself when the time comes. But at the end of the day, my life would be much smoother if I wasn't providing for my children. Do I love them? Do I regret them? Absolutely not. Absolutely do love them. They are a blessing. There is joy that comes from it. But at the end of the day, you're a responsibility. So yeah, no, I don't have any problem continuing to it's my pleasure. I'm glad that I'm able to provide for my children because I know that's not everybody's story and situation.
I agree.
Yeah,
especially with your story. Like the horror story is the women on Section 8, and we know people complain, my tax dollars are going to you having all these babies and all that. And that I completely understand, right? The problem isn't as big as it is in Canada as it is in the US, but we definitely, have the same problem here. So I'm going to take it back a bit, and I'm going to take it back to the last question that I ended off. For those of you who didn't see the clip earlier, I played a clip of Courtenay originally on Kendra G, and how the clip ended off was Kendra asking Courtenay, so Courtenay girl, you couldn't settle down with any of your 5 baby daddies. So let's talk about that. We won't spend a lot of time on that, but why not settle down with any of the men you had children with?
Yeah. So, number one, young, right? We were engaged. We were going to get married. And I'd like to point out, which I have before, people seem to miss this. All of my children's fathers, except one, have multiple baby mamas as well. So there's kids all around, and I'm talking 5 and 6, right? I'm not just 1 or 2. All of them have multiple baby mamas. So the oldest had an older child before I had my child with him. We were engaged. We were young. It didn't work. He went on to have 3, 4 more. He is married though, 10 plus years at this point, second marriage. So again, it's not unfortunately as uncommon as people would like to think. It is what it is. The second one, he has no other kids. And we actually do talk here and there about maybe if, but there's some work that he needs to do as far as healing. That's just the bottom line on that. Yeah. The third one is deceased.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, thank you. He died 39 of a heart attack, and he has 4 kids, 4 baby mamas. Mm-hmm. Which this lifestyle will give you.
Kids, I can imagine. I got one, and I started graying early. I could not imagine.
Yeah. So he's deceased. The fourth we co-parent really well. That's my daughter's father, and he has 6 kids in total. 6 baby mamas.
Hold on. What number were you?
4.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. And that was number 4. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then my youngest.
I remember that story, girl.
Yeah, that's the one where it's like, what? Yeah, my youngest is the youngest of 4 on my side, so 5 in total, and he's probably the youngest of 13 on his dad's side. So he's married. His dad is married and around the corner and not doing shit. But child support,
he lives around the corner from where you live?
He does.
Does he see your son?
Not at all. No.
But he pays child support.
Oh, he does do that because at the end of the day, what I'm not going to do is deprive my child because you don't want to physically be present. That's your prerogative. I can't make you parent, but you will provide for.
No, that makes sense. But girl, hold on. I'm gonna take that all. I'm gonna take it all in. Your kids have a lot of siblings. Let's just
do. Yeah,
that's a lot of siblings. Let me ask you this, and we won't spend a lot of time because I think we want to get to the juicy part of what your inbox looked like after your parents' but for you, and we talked about the healing. I know for you, and I will speak for myself before I go into it, right? Like, I have one child. She was the first for her dad. She's the first, clearly, for both of us. I only have one. I generally stay away from men when I hear that they have multiple children because it speaks to their decision making. And I am a big believer that my husband is going to lead by example. And I don't want to be led by a man who that was the example, right? Going out there and not protecting his seed. There was a lot of talk about women protecting their womb, but I always talk to men as well. You need to protect your seed. Stop going in and skeeting, as my ex used to call it, in women that you have no intentions for, right?
Yeah.
Not saying don't have sex, but have a adult conversation. Make sure she's on birth control. If she's not, and even if you don't trust her, put on a condom, double it up, something else, but protect your seed. So for you, I'm just thinking about, say, baby father number 4.
Mm-hmm.
You get to this point, you have 3. Girl, why even bother with the men who already had 4? Well, you were a baby mom of 4, so I had 3 kids by 3 women before you. Why would we even give that man a chance?
Because honestly, we were just, there's no reason. I guess that's the bottom. There's no reason. We were just doing what we were doing, and there was no rhyme or reason. And at the time, so again, because I did not process all the way through, right? I feel like when we're young, people are like, oh, babies are so hard, and it's a lot to take care of them. I was already doing it. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it was just it was my default. So having another baby was never a deterrent. It wasn't until I got to my last baby where I was like, I can't do this. And I know people think that's such a long span and you should have. A lot of things happened. And that I had my last baby in COVID. So COVID stopped a lot of things, right? A lot of times people don't deal with trauma. I just went to work. I took the kids to school. I put the car in the shop. It's just go, 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 go. COVID was the first time in adulthood that I had to stop. You could not go anywhere.
It sit your ass down. It sit your ass down. Yeah.
And so when you're sat down with yourself, you have to process.
Yeah.
You have to deal with what's going on. So I had my baby girl in 2016 when no COVID. It was just, dropping it like it was hot. And here she is. So, and again, like I said, did he want other kids? No. Did I want other kids? No. But I've never had an abortion. That's just not my thing. I don't have any public judgment. I can, keep my thoughts to myself on that because it ain't my body at the end of the day. And I think that's what it comes down to. It's like if I had 5 kids or if I aborted 5 kids, it's nobody else's body but mine. But I don't have abortions. I can't have any more children right now, praise God, ever again. My tubes are removed. But it's like, oh, you just have another kid. All right. Because again, I was taking care of my kids. I lived on my own, had my own place, my own car, my own career. Just one more.
But girl, we talked about this before, so I got to get on you. I'm going to do it again.
Yeah.
But girl, you had health insurance, did birth control.
Yeah, I did. And there's a big gap though, right, between my daughter and my son. So my daughter and my son are 6 years apart. So it's not like I'm having kids back to back to back to back. There was time in between there. There
and
was
respected wholeheartedly, but I'm going to still get at you. There was now listen, I'm also talking, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to get close to people. I'm also talking from a lens of a woman who didn't want children and definitely didn't want multiple children. Courtenay, when her and I spoke, Courtenay grew up wanting 4 children. Now she wanted 4 children in a nuclear, and I'm going to put that in brackets because what's a nuclear family these days, but she wanted it with a husband and she wanted 4 children. And so her love for children is very different than mine. I be fruitful and multiplied. I had one, God and I had a conversation. We talked about me not needing to have any more. While Courtenay, for her, she loves kids. She wants to have kids. It didn't end up playing out the way she wanted, but again, your decision-making process would have been different than my decision-making process because of the lens that I have. But let's keep it real with each other. Knowing that these men were not necessarily showing up with intentions for you potentially, as a woman, I have to hold you accountable and say, have all the sex you want, girl. No judgment. It's like you said, it's your vagina. What you do with it, whoever comes out of it, that's on you. But why not just protect yourself from these men who clearly they didn't have intentions for the other women that they had babies with? So I can't think that they were going to have intentions for you. My last question, but we talked about your inbox.
Yeah, no, that's a good question, right? And how I would answer that today, and how I would advise my daughter today, and other women, is like completely different than my thought process back then. It didn't matter. So it's
Mm.
selfishness, right? Like it's selfishness, because I really see the difference in a child benefiting from two parents, right? I don't care if you're lesbian,
Yeah.
gay couple, just the fact that you have at least two adults who are legally, financially, morally, ethically responsible for you makes a difference.
Yeah.
Even if they're not together, right? So it was irresponsible. It was selfish, because it was like, oh, it doesn't matter. If they're around, they're around. They're not, or not. But and at the time, it's like, oh, it wasn't directly affecting me, or I wasn't acknowledging that. But now, understanding and having an adult child and still having the little ones, and understanding like the phases and things they go through, it isn't fair to the kids. It's not fair because I'm stretched so thin most of the time. Again, I am in a place where I'm completely grateful. I have a completely different lifestyle than I even did at that time, where I was in retail management, crazy schedule, which means I could get off of work at 11, had to drive 40 minutes to go get my kids out of daycare, pick them up out of daycare, come back to our house. They got to wake up again at 6. It was a lot. Did that for like 5 years. My lifestyle is nothing like that, thank God, at this point. But I did what I had to do to provide. And the kids don't know anything different. That's the bottom line. They don't know anything different, but it's a lot. And if I could choose to parent again, or if my advice to my kids would be, you don't want your wife worn out like that. You don't want your husband to be working 15, 12-hour shifts, or your partner or your kid only being able to see them every other weekend. If in fact you guys can be in the same house and working together, it's beneficial for everybody all the way around. If it's not set up like how it was set up. So at the time, there was just no thought into it. If I got pregnant, I got pregnant. I'm gonna take care of my kids, and that's that.
I love that. And I'm going to pause on that for a second. Mr. You're in a timeout. Mr. says, I like to bake muffins, and I'm currently working on a patent for sprinkles made out of birth control pills. Here you go, baby. I made you muffins. Go sit down.
Mr. He's got time today. Okay, Mr. Again, they're not needed. I will eat your muffins, right? But they are not needed. There's no more tubes. Had the last baby. I saw the tubes in the Petri dish. Can't happen.
You know what? You're on a timeout. The last comment I'm going to make before we get to the juicy part is what your inbox was like. I agree with you. A lot of the times people are not thinking about the children, right? And the impact on the children. And I will say, even at my prime age at 21, when I had my daughter, that was actually something that I thought about. One, her father wanted to have another child after her. I said no, because I didn't want multiple children. And even once I got married and, I fell in love, everybody said, you're going to fall in love and you're going to change your mind. And 22 years later, she's an only child. Part of the reason of that is I thought about what will the dynamic look like for her when she has to be carted off for Christmas or spring break or whatever holidays, while I'm sitting around with her potential sibling and her stepfather, and we're having all of these things, and she's missing out because her mother made a decision not thinking about the impact on her. That was always my biggest thing, is I gave birth to this one child. I'm responsible for this one child, and how she grows up is all on me, right? Whatever, if she becomes a bloody serial killer, they're going to blame mom, right? They never really blame dad, but they're going to be like, what kind of mother did she have? And I just never wanted her to ever be in a position where she was thinking about, my mom is over there with my brother or sister living it up, and I'm with daddy, and I love daddy, and daddy's great, but what's going on at mommy's house? So that was always a thing. So I would say to ladies, yeah, it's great, and children are a blessing, and I agree with Courtney, right? If abortion isn't your thing, please make birth control your thing.
Right.
Please make good decisions and choices your thing, right? Yes. It's like, please make it your thing. You want to have all the sex in the world. You want to meet that man, and he says he doesn't want a relationship, but you think that the sex is going to make him change his mind. Do you, sweetie pie? But it doesn't mean that babies are not souvenirs. And this is no shade to Courtney. Courtney already had the conversations. Babies are not souvenirs. You do not need to have them with every failed relationship, right? Sex it up, rub it down.
Yeah, and you make a valid point that, so your foresight at 2021, when you had your child, to say, like, that's fine. But if I marry somebody else and we have this, nuclear family, and then she's off with her dad, even though the relationships are great, right? Kids still process that through a very different lens. I didn't have that foresight, and I'm not going to blame it on anything. Or again, I came from a 2-parent household, so kids going away for the weekend, that wasn't my reality. But now that it is as a parent, I do see, and boys and their communication is rough at best, right? Anyway, but I know, I think part of the reason me and my 17-year-old is he did grow up seeing my older child go back and forth to his dad, and my 17-year-old didn't have that. He doesn't have that relationship with his father. So it isn't fair. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, I own it. I don't dwell in a place of feeling guilty because his dad could choose to have a relationship with him. Yeah. That's on him, right? I'm only responsible for what I'm responsible for. But had I had that foresight at 21, might I have made different choices? Possibly. Because, again, the oldest has a great relationship with his father. My girl has a great relationship with hers. The 13-year-old, his father's deceased, so it's not anything I can do about that. Luckily, though, we do have a relationship with one of his older brothers, and so the mom and I keep in touch, and I try to cultivate as much as I can that's within my control, right? But at the end of the day, like baby boy, his dad's around the corner, he don't want to do. All right, it just is what it is. Now that baby boy does have a relationship with grandma and grandpa, siblings.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, I owned my choices, but his dad is who his dad is. And my story is not unique to dad. It couldn't be, right, if he's got 13 kids.
They got 13 kids, girl. There are a bunch of women with the same story.
Exactly, which means, unfortunately, there's a bunch of kids with the same story. So regardless of their relationship with their father, they all love one another.
Okay, and this is a burning question people want to know. I keep saying I'm gonna move on from this, but did you know he had what number is your child? And did you know he had all them kids before you decided to pop up one for him?
So here we go with the decided to pop. You
girl, I don't know.
I know, but you speak in terms of cognition, right? And so yes, if we're technically speaking, if you are having unprotected sex,
babies are a part of the equation.
Inevitably, right? But when I was with his father from 2016 to 2017, we were broken up. I didn't have the baby till 2020. Yeah. Did we continue to on and off see each other here and there? Yes. But was there this like, oh, let's have a baby? No. It just was, I guess, no guess. There was no, what? Hold on a minute.
Yeah.
Why? Get out of here. Do you see I'm on live? Yeah. Bye, Micah. No, not right now. Close my doors. Wait. I'm on a business call. I'm also giving children away for adoption right now.
You 17-year-old. So that's the 17-year-old.
That's the 13-year-old. That's the 13-year-old.
Slightly used 13-year-old. Trust me, I've been trying to give mine away somewhere. I've been asking, do you want a slightly used 22-year-old? Because sometimes I've been giving her away. I can't lie.
It can go. So yeah. So no, with the baby boy, there was no, right. I'm an adult. I had that child at 38, fully aware that if you have sex without protection, you're going to have a baby. At some point you possibly could. Did I know he had all those kids at the time? I was aware, because it came out, not that he was forthright and truthful. At the time that I got pregnant, I was aware that he had a lot of kids. When we were together, I was not, because he told me he had 4.
He told you had 4?
Yeah.
And he had 12 at the time?
Well, we broke up in 2017. It didn't have so whatever kids came after that.
Okay, we're done with that.
Yeah.
Ladies, listen, I am a fan of us women, but we got to do better. We really, because it's not even just, again, it's not directed to Courtenay, but this is directed to women as a whole, because there is no way, I'm not gonna lie to you, Courtenay, there's no way my vagina is even getting wet for a man with that many baby mamas. I can't. I remember meeting the guy, the man was fine, girl. The man was fine, because I love tall men, right? So this man is like caramel complexion, 6'7". He had these tattoos. He was sexy. I don't have any tattoos, so I find it sexy on some other men. Well-spoken, educated. The man said he had 7 kids by 7 women. it dried right the hell up. I said, you breathe on me, sir. You breathe on me. You breathe on, you hand me a meal. You hand me anything. You hold my hand. I am pregnant. Like it just, but again, you are right. Seeing it through different lenses, right? Like for me, that's, oh, no, not gonna happen. If I'm thinking if we get together, I got to take care of these 7 kids. Not for me, not gonna, never, right? And I just was like, oh no, I'm not even taking that chance. It's like, how many pills would I have to take? We're not taking 1 birth control pill. We're taking like 3 a night. Not gonna do that. No, why did you come to your Don't make great choices. You're not a man who can lead me, right? And so all of these things are going through my head when I hear that. I think for me, I'm not even thinking about the sex. At this point, the sex is the furthest thing from my mind. At this point, I'm thinking about all the other shit I can deal with.
I think that maybe if, again, when we started talking, if that would have came out initially, because, okay, again, you got it, like my oldest, he only had 1. We were young, he only had 1. So that's that. The second one had none.
Yeah.
Right? The third, that's when it should have been like, Courtenay, he had 3, but at that point I had 2. So it's like, so, and then 4th definitely should have been like you, but again, we were not in a space, right? I honestly can say where it was just like, oh, we're talking about a relationship. No, this is me with 3 kids. When they sleep, they're, they're old enough to finally like, mommy can leave for a little bit, step out and have some fun. Yeah. And that's what that was. So there wasn't this thought of how is this man going to work inside of this nuclear family. That's not what was processing. With my last one,
you were dropping it down. Your mommy needed to have some fun, and
that's what it was. And mommy should have protected herself. And again, I say all the time, I am thankful that what I got was children, right? So, and not anything else. Praise Jesus.
Amen.
So I can raise my kids. I love my kids. I don't have anything that is going to make me have to pop a pill forever. Any of that. So, because that's a real thing too, right? Which are these are the conversations I have to have with my kids. So yeah, no, the last one, again, I own what I own, but a lot of that was he was not honest, right? And no, yes. And so after we broke up, could I have stayed away? And yes, I could have. And I didn't, and I got pregnant. I will say though, again, people, a lot of times, and I've had to learn the hard way more than once, right? Like just because I'm honest, right? I'm on the show telling you what it is. I was Kendra. That doesn't mean everybody else is.
Agreed. 100%
agree. And all I can speak to is men and women because I'm not a lesbian. I haven't dated a woman. I think about it sometimes, but my homegirl said, we don't want you over here.
It's overrated, girl. I have dated women. I am a bisexual woman, girl. It is exhausting. It gives me headaches. Yeah. I digress.
Yeah. So my son's father, he's really good at lying. That's just the bottom line. He's really good at lying. And so, yes, when I got pregnant with my child, was I aware that there was multiple children? Yes, but I was not aware of the extent that it was. Like, he was married. And I spoke about this on Kendra. Yeah. He was married, but his wife was out of state and had lived out of state. So how would I know that? He never, you know what I mean? He was married for like 10 plus years, and it didn't come out until later that he divorced her and then married somebody else. So, I'm out here being honest, and you see my kids because they're with me.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of goes from there. So, yeah, I don't recommend it. It's not anything that I'm just like, ooh, glorifying or whatever. It's just, I have them. I provide for them. I love them. And that's that.
They're yours. Okay, so now let's get to it because I'm going to wrap up. I've kept Courtenay a little longer than anticipated. But what was your inbox like after the Kendra G appearance, and did you meet anyone special?
Yeah, inbox was popping a bit. We started.
How much did you get? Because I have a gentleman who I'm interviewing tomorrow who's got 4 kids, 2 different women, very handsome man. And I know he got the men usually get about thousands. Even some of the most ratchet of men get thousands of women in their inbox. So what was your inbox looking like? Was it tens? Was it hundreds? Was it into thousands?
Oh, no. So I'm definitely not going to fry. And Kendra has spoke on that it's definitely a man's world, right? They could be the ratcheted of the ratcheteds and they still going to get an inbox blowing up. I would say maybe about 100 or so, probably altogether. Half of them though were in Africa. And
that really does happen, girl. Like they really are coming. What are they trying to say? Get me a green card? Like what is happening?
So I just deleted. I didn't, because here's the thing. I'm very practical at this point. And so if you've never been to the United States, right? I know Americans are very, what's the word? We're kind of like sedity, for lack of better terms, and like, oh, right, because people say, well, you never been to Africa, right? But I'm also not trying to date anybody in Africa, because again, when we talk about attention versus intention, it just becomes another task to have like this long distance relationship. I'm not doing it. So I deleted those, didn't even converse or say thank you. It was just delete. Interesting enough, there's probably about maybe I would say 3 to 5 men from there that there was like serious conversations. 3 of them were like in the mental health field. Oh, that's interesting. So one, yeah. So I was like, oh, I had to tell my top, don't be trying to diagnose me. But one of them I'm still in contact with. Again, realistic. He's very handsome. He's a psychiatric nurse, stationed in Japan. Yeah, he has 2 kids, whatever. But the reality of it is you're stationed in Japan. So we talked, we video when I was sick. He sent me things to my house and things like that. If he was here, I'm sure we would go out and see what it is. There was another gentleman who was older, because on Kendra, I did say I would take him from like, I think 38 to 60. And I lied. I really don't think I can do 60.
Girl, my age is 50 to 65. I'm 50 to 65.
What I lied about is like, I would like to do 60, but I'm like, oh, that's pushing it. So this dude was about 60 though. He was a licensed marriage family therapist. But I think with the age thing again, so if anybody, and you only had the one, right? But if, like you just saw, kids are going to come in and out. You cannot have a cohesive, coherent conversation with all these kids. It's like I have Tourette syndrome. So I prefer to text, right? I prefer to that's just easy. I can get to you in between. Because by the time I settle down, get them settled at night, I promise you I'm falling asleep. Right? Yeah. So men that have little kids or whatever, they're aware of that. The 60-year-old felt like, oh, you're just not making time. Yeah, okay. And again, he was in Detroit. You know, what's I'm not moving to Detroit. I don't know what
no one should move to Detroit.
Yeah, no. I'm in beautiful, sunny Southern California. I'm not doing that. You're not moving here. So there was, and there is a guy presently in Texas, but he's fine. You know, when you talk to a man that's fine and they know they fine.
Yeah, girl, I know.
Yeah, so I'm not, and he know he fine, but so I'm not willing to do the things that he's talking about. I was like, well, come out here. And he's like, well, come out there. And so I'm glad you repeated that to me so I can keep that in my mind. The intention versus attention. Yeah, there was another dude in like Tennessee, great guy. He sent me something for my birthday. We still talk. Yeah, so I've had really great experiences. Again, I think if these people were closer, it would be like, absolutely, let's go out, get a drink, get to know each other. Great conversations, really respectable guys. You know, but it's just nobody close enough to home. I do work remotely, so I have talked about like it's not a thing for me to, you know, pack up if I thought it was going to be advantageous, but that would take quite a bit, right? With all I'm not going to just move my kids.
You're going to move your children. That's a lot. That's a lot to consider, right? Like there's a lot to consider. I can get up and go. My daughter is fairly self-sufficient. She'll figure it out. But yeah, you know, with the because your youngest is 4 now or still 3?
4. Yeah,
that would be, because now you got between 4 and 17 at home.
Yeah.
To pack up all of that and change their lives and all of the things that go with it, that would be tough. Just a question of all the say the top three, were they all fathers, and were they all fathers of multiple children? Like, what was their dynamic?
Yeah. So the one that's fine is not a father. He has no kids. And I really think I prefer somebody who is a parent, just because I feel like we move differently. When you are single, over 40, you have your own, like, he got his own house, own business, all of this. He's used to what he's used to when he's used to it. I don't live in that way. Like, even with you, we had to reschedule. I'm sorry, I got a soccer game. You know, life happens.
And I got it because I'm a mom, because I've had to do that to people. Yeah.
Yeah. So, the other one that's in Tennessee, he's the father of one, great father, co-parents well with his ex-wife. The one that's in Japan, again, ex-wife, co-parents really well with the 3 kids that he has. I don't think any of them had like multiple baby mamas or anything like that. It was like their ex-wives. But yeah, pretty much all fathers.
Did any of them bring up the fact that you had the multiple baby fathers?
Yeah, and in a very like empathetic way. There was one, actually, I forgot, in Florida too. He's it's with his ex-girl. He has 2 kids, but he was like, my mom has like, and he's Jamaican. So from what I've heard, I'm not Jamaican.
I'm Jamaican, so
people are like, you should be, because I hear that's a thing. Like, a lot of Jamaicans have a lot of kids with a lot of people. Island base. It's a stereotype anyway. And so he was like, my mom has like 5 kids, 5 babies. Like, it didn't phase any of them. They're just like, life happens. It didn't take away from your beauty and the fact that you're a good mom and you're intelligent or any of that. So none of them were just like, oh my God, not at all. Didn't bother.
Did you get any in your inbox that were negative? That were like, girl, what were you doing? Blah, blah, blah. Because I've heard that sometimes these Kendra cousins will get in people's inboxes just to be belligerent and rude.
Nope. It was only people that were interested. I had a guy that I talked to for a little bit. He was a little older, probably 55. And again, I'm just like, he actually was local, but he had a lot going on. He was like taking a test to finish his Juris Doctorate.
No, wow.
Yeah. So, you know, that takes a lot of your focus, right? Mm-hmm. And then his brother, I think, unfortunately had a stroke in between there. So it's just like, my attention span, my ADHD doesn't allow, I'm just like moving on. So no, nobody was nasty. Nobody was, like I said, if they was over past Florida, over in Africa, it was immediately a delete. And then the ones that I've talked to and tried to see what was up and whatever, just weren't local. So nothing bad, but absolutely still single.
Okay, let me just, Mr. I told you to go to bed. Okay, Mr. I told you you are on a timeout. This is the final comment I'm going to read of the night, and then I'm going to ask you the final question and let you go, because I know your 13-year-old was looking for you. So Mr. said, kids are like AIDS. Jesus Christ. They're both expensive. You have them for the rest of your life. They remind you of your past mistakes, and you can only date other people that have them. What's the difference? Mr. you're on a timeout. Go to bed.
He's funny. I can't imagine that he's single. OMG.
Mr. Funny enough has no kids. So he is the gentleman that you don't. Funny enough, you know, because I talk a lot about you. Funny enough, the person I won't say I guess the word seriously. Anyways, I've known this person for 19 years, the person that I'm now interested in. Met him when my daughter was 3 years old. We are 4 years apart. And so because I had a child and he didn't have a child, I never took it serious. And we've never even been intimate. Like, you were talking about your life, I'll talk about mine. Fast forward 19 years, he still has no children. He's very serious about not wanting children. He still does not have children. He's a former football player, coaches football now for an HBCU, just handsome and just a great man. Girl, he's fine. He's fine.
My son, we're gonna talk offline in just a minute.
He's fine. He's 6'5". He's fine. He's in Atlanta though. He's in Atlanta. He's not in, so he's fine. But anyways, it's interesting now. being a woman with a child, and I've dated and met a lot of men without children. And that was always my thing. Why after my ex-husband, I didn't remarry, because a lot of the men that I met, I got married in my 20s, got divorced, and a lot of the men I was meeting didn't have children. So that was always my thing. There are women who say, I can't find a man who doesn't have a children. Most of the men that I've met in my life and dated did not have children. And I always say to them, I'm not the woman for you, because I'm not going to give you a child. Like, I don't care how much I love you. I don't love anybody that much. I have to be honest. Like, I don't love anybody that much to give them a baby, right? And so for me now at 44, kind of really wanting to, it's been tricky for me, because it's like, there's this man I care about, I love very much, and I've known for a long time. But it's always been that, you can have a child at 55, sir, and you turn around to me and be like, oh, I missed out on life. So I know that's the complicated part when you meet a man without a child, and even when they say they don't want children, they can have. My dad had my younger sister. My daddy was, I was 19 at the time when my daddy had my younger sister, so he was 54. My daddy was 54 when my youngest sister came. So men can pop out children at all times. So it's tricky for me dating men without children, but it's also tricky for me dating men with children, because I don't want to raise your children.
Yeah.
So I want to, again, bring your own grown kid. BYOGK. Okay, bring your own grown kid.
That. I think that's a good in the middle is, bring your own grown kid.
Yeah, bring your own grown kid.
I don't mind if you're actively involved and parent, right? Like, I'm not into you being a great stepdaddy to my kids, but you don't see yours. That's not gonna work.
Helpful. And one of my caveats for, if I date a man with children, I end up with a man with children, I need to be able to sit down and have a conversation with that child's mother. Absolutely. I don't care if the child is 25 years old or 15, right? Like, I want to make sure that you have enough of a relationship that I can sit down and converse with this woman and understand, because even with grown children, they still need to be raised. They still need to be taken care of. They still need their dad. They still need their mom. And if you've got a contentious relationship with that parent, it just becomes difficult for us to have a good relationship, because that's always something that you have to deal with. I don't have a contentious relationship with my daughter's father. He will be at my wedding. Whomever I marry, he's on the invite list, because he is the father of my child. Right. I
completely agree. And again, I've been lucky enough to cultivate relationships with, I would say, most of them. Like, my daughter's father, there's 6 kids. So the girl that's right below my daughter, the mom comes over, right? The girls play together, because, I don't have any girls. So she gets to play with her sister on her daddy's side. Yeah. And things like that are important. My son, whose father is deceased, he gets to talk to his big brother who is in the service and things like that. So it's important. I ain't at beef with nobody. If you widow, I you. Yeah. And that's that. So
that's the best way to put it. I'm not having beef with no other woman that came before me. And I think that's what we have. Like, these women came before me. And the reality is, women, if you are smart, you want to hear about that man from that woman's perspective, because what version of him did she get? We don't all get the same version of men. And like, all men don't get the same version of me. There are some men who will tell you I'm a downright bitch, and there are others who will tell you I'm the greatest thing ever to enter their life, right? We just do not get the same version of people. However, I do want to know from the ex-wife, right? What was he like? What was the, because that is useful for me as we move forward in our relationship. So that's, for me, that's important. So when I am intentional with a man, those things matter to me. Did you tidy up your past well enough that we can actually have a present and a future that your past is not going to impede on? Like, ladies, those are the things that we need to look at. The man could be fine and 6'4" and 6'5", and the tallest I've dated is 7 foot, right? Like, my very first boyfriend was 6'5". My ex-husband was 6'5". Like, people have gotten on me on this show. I do not date shorter men. I don't like it. Not my thing. When I walk, my eyes are up here. I don't even see you. I'm sorry. It's what it is. You know what? These men are fine. And I understand that who they were in their 20s and 30s may not who they are in their 40s, but I still want to understand, who were they? Did you see them grow? Did you see them evolve? What are things that I should look out for? Like, I want to be able to have that grown woman conversation with the woman who was part of my man's past, because that's important. I want to be able to have family dinners and the children and the mother is sitting down and having that, because those things matters, because that's also good for the children to see no matter their age. So that's what intention does for me.
Correct.
Tall and big dick, yeah, I'm been there, done that, over that.
I completely agree, especially at this phase in life.
Yeah.
And so,
not my big age, not at my big age.
not at this big age. If we can't all, because that's what it is extended family. So.
Okay, Mr. you're coming in one. Mr. Before I ask Courtney the last question, Mr. I will own that. Mr. says, I have heard a lot of healed thoughts in this stream.
Good.
I love this. I love, you know what, this is a great last comment to end it off with, because I always say when I started this show, it was to change the conversation around Black relationships. And it wasn't just romantic relationships. It's just that even two women who don't know each other, from different cultures, from different countries, different parts of the world, can sit down, be strangers on the internet, and actually come together and have a respectful discourse. I was able to share my viewpoint. Courtney was able to share hers without any feelings and any kind of bad words or anything. We walked away. This is our second interview together, and I'm sure we'll probably have a third, right? We're able to walk away and learn from each other, and this is what this platform was built for, to have those respectful discourses. I walked away with a lot from our first interaction, and I know that you did as well.
Yes.
This is what this platform is for, and I think this is what's going to get us closer as a community. And I mean, we all Black people, and I know that, you know, I've gotten to court, and I won't tell you, I've gotten a lot of people who said my opinion doesn't matter because I'm not American. And I'm like, I'm still Black. And yeah, as a Black woman who's outside of America, I don't get to have the same say as a Black American woman.
Goes across the diaspora.
Thank you. Right?
Yeah, I was just in a Black leadership cohort through work, and there was people calling from all over with very similar stories. It doesn't matter if you're here, you're in Brazil, you're in Canada,
Amen.
You're in China. Black is Black everywhere. So
amen to that. So you heard it here, right?
Yes.
And so I love that. So my final question to you, and I'll let you go enjoy your Saturday afternoon. What is next for Courtney?
Oh my goodness. This is the best part of the update for me. And so yes, I'm still open to love and finding that and you know, but at the end of the day, I'm a Capricorn and I'm gonna grind, and I had intent on getting to a certain number at the end of the year, 100K. I know that may not be big for
girl, that's a lot of money. Don't be letting these people on camera talk about a lot of money.
Well, first of all, it ain't that much in Cali with 5 kids. Let's keep that right.
God. It's still a lot of money. It's still an accomplishment. As a Black woman, I'm gonna own it. As a Black woman, that is a lot, girl.
Thank you. So that was my goal. And again, like I said, I use these platforms in this time to speak, to encourage. I do not have my degree. I do have 5 kids and 5 baby daddies. I have been adversely justice impacted because of choices that I have made early on. And I was able to exceed that number and started a new job this year. So I pretty much doubled my salary, secured another home, working on the third one at hopefully by the end of this year. Yeah. So those are the things that it's like, yep, I made those choices. I learned from them. Not ashamed. Love my kids. And no, I ain't got a man yet, but I'm getting to the bag.
No, and listen, that is an amazing, amazing update. And it's an inspiring one. Just because you've made certain choices and you're dealing with the consequences of those choices doesn't mean that those choices have to stop you from pursuing the things that you want to pursue, right? Like, your story is vastly different than most women. And I think that's probably why we connected, because I'm honest with you. If you were the woman who was on here telling me about your Section 8 and your food stamps, this would be a different conversation. I don't relate to those types of women. It's not my world. It's not the world I live in.
Right? I've been there. I don't want anybody to think that I haven't been.
You used it as a stepping stone, though. You did use it as a
you're supposed to use it. That's how you're supposed to. You're supposed to use that time to build resources, get a better job, and level up. Yep. And that's what I did. And so I'm thankful.
And listen, I 100% agree. And thank you for being open and honest, because you didn't have to say that, right? You didn't even have to share that. But again, using something as a resource to be able to help you to go further and using it as a crutch to continue to make the same choices, those are very different. And I think as Black women, we need to hold each other accountable and still be able to hold hands and walk through the fire together.
Yeah.
I can still say, Courtney, the choices that you've made wouldn't be my choices, and look at what's happened. But as a sister, I can still hold your hand and we can still cross that fire together, because at the end of the day, take away the 5 kids, our Black women experience in the corporate world, especially, which we're both in, is an experience.
That's a whole nother conversation. Yeah.
And for those of you who have not picked up my book, please pick up my book, No Handouts for Black Girls, and you will hear a little bit about my corporate world experience, because it's been a doozy. And again, I always try to find the commonalities that we have as opposed to the differences. And again, this platform is to have respectful discourse. So I 100% appreciate you taking this time from me. And any final words that you have for the viewers online right now and those who will watch us later?
Yeah, just be encouraged. Just be encouraged. Like I've said, where you are is not necessarily where you're going to be. The choices that you make, you should own. You should be accountable for them. But that doesn't have to determine your destiny, right? You're not any less deserving of love. You're not any less deserving of promotion, education, because of what has occurred. You're not responsible for your trauma, whether self-induced or from a childhood, as far as if that's what you dealt with, fine, but you are responsible for your healing and doing what you need to do to better yourself, right? Anybody can be taken advantage of. Some people, as I explained before, are just desensitized. They're just shut down until you're not. And so once I became aware that, I gotta do things better. It didn't matter that it was 5 babies in. It didn't matter that it was 1 owned house in or whatever. It's like, whenever you realize it, do the work to be better, and you'll be grateful for it. Like it is definitely better to operate in healing than brokenness. So
I love that. Great advice. Drop the mic. I just pinged Mr. Mister's comment up here just to say, just to be clear, I wrote 9 books.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mister. Please pick up my book, share it with all the women in your life. But I did write 9 books. I have a 6-part series called the Sienna series. That is also a full book called Sienna, Love, Lust, and Sex. I have a whole title for it. Then I have No Handouts for Black Girls, which I had up there. And then I actually have a No Handouts for Black Girls affirmation booklet for young girls, so that they find the power within them. And I'm working on my 10th book, which will be out this November, based on my life experience and the show called Fuck Your Feelings. It's Fuck Your Feelings, the book, basically the journey to imperfect love. So that will be my 10th book. Because listen, I believe as Black women, we're dynamic and we can do anything. And Courtney just proved that. You are doing big things. I am so excited to talk to you in the next couple of months to find out what happens and what's going on with you. And I wish you nothing but the best. Please, everyone, share this. This was a great conversation. Like, subscribe, and share this, and let Courtney be an inspiration to women like her out there. And I will say thank you so much. Yes, I did just stunt on you. Mr. Mister said, did she just stunt on us? Yes, I did. Okay, because that's Black women's power. Okay, I'm a stunt all day, all day, all day. Right? I have the same amount of hours as Beyonce, like I like to say. I got the same 24 hours as Beyonce, and I use my 24 hours effectively. So I did just stunt. Okay, so thank you, Courtney. Thank you to everybody watching live. I appreciate you. We'll talk soon. Bye, everyone. Bye.